Well, today is our youth-focused call, and the kind of background on this is, we've been in this for a couple months now, and the states are starting to talk about and moving some action towards reopening, and so all the questions are starting about what does this summer look like, and what can we and can't we do, and so I just thought this would be a great topic for today because there are a couple things that are in the works that I want to share with you about, and I invited some people on to share about those, and then also give you some encouragement and hopefully some conversation about what can organically happen in your areas. So that's going to be the focus today. So if you have any questions along the way, please let me know. And enough of you have my cell phone number, so if anything goes crazy along the way, please text me and let me know. So let me pray, and then we'll get started. So Lord, thank you so much for this opportunity to be together. And Lord, I pray as we would share ideas that they would be just really inspiring and creative in a way that helps us see what can be ahead for the youth and families that we serve. So we thank you for that. In your name, amen. Amen. Well, I'm going to start with going ahead and share my screen, just a couple points, and then the three main things we're going to hit today are local church, what you can be doing, and I've invited Heidi Strickler to share about that, and Kennedy's on here too and going to share her experience of what they've done as a local church in the summer and maybe some ideas they're having. Also going to talk about a national Foursquare Digital Experience that's going to be rolling out this summer that your students or church together can be a part of, and then a fall retreat that's being planned in October. So those are the three main things we're going to hit, and then conversation regarding locally getting together. So let me just go ahead and share a couple of these ideas here. Summer youth options. Camps may be canceled, but connecting's not. And I know that you all realize that as a value that you have, that these youth still need connections. So how do we do that in a creative way? And so let me jump back over here. Bring that up, the ideas we have here for that. And so considerations for youth group connections. Connecting is critical. So whatever that may look like for you, you definitely want to make sure that connecting is happening, whether that's when we can get together or virtually, or, being in driveways and sitting 6 feet apart, or whatever that looks like. So my encouragement to you, just be creative, but keep connecting. That's what these students need right now, even more than your 3-point sermon. They need your presence, and they need each other. Secondly, continue to follow state and church guidelines in all of this, okay? So work with your church leadership team. This is not the time to go rogue, all right? Like, stay submitted and in step with what your church is doing. Okay, so if they decide this is how we're going to phase this out, have your youth program follow in that same way. And then the next one and last is collaborate with youth leaders in your area. Now's the time to be neighborly. Okay, and I don't know that we've always done that the best, even within our Foursquare churches, in connecting with the churches that are around us. And I'm going to try to help facilitate some of that. But I really encourage you to find out who your area pastor is, and you're all in a grouping of like 5 to 10 churches. I think it'd be awesome if those churches would get together, because this is the time that we're looking more locally than we are maybe a larger scale. All right. So those are just kind of my opening remarks to get us going today. But I want to hand it over to Heidi Strickler to get us started on the conversation of locally, what is it that you can be doing that would unite your youth together, thinking restrictions, but also thinking, hey, maybe by June, we're going to be able to have more meeting together. So Heidi, why don't you take it away and talk about some of the things on your mind and things you've done.
Well, thanks, Leslie, for having me and Kennedy on today. I am the next gen. I don't even know what my title is anymore, but I took over the youth group probably about 2 years ago. I've come in and out of it, but I've always been the next gen director, along with other roles. And so kids, youth, and all that, but I'm hands-on with the youth group. And this has been very challenging. We do Zoom calls 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I have the kids sharing the devotions, and they're really now, I don't know if you guys have noticed it and you're seeing it with your own group, they're really struggling right now because it's been so long and all of that, and it's tough. So I have a team of 10 that we're reaching out to our kids all the time. We're as much as we can, and to the parents as well. And so, and we're still in the planning process for the summer, because yesterday was the great news. Baseball may be coming back July 1st. At least that's what the Cleveland Indians are saying. They're hoping that maybe by then. So if that's the case, then hopefully sometime in June, churches are going to be back up and all that. And I know each state's different, but Ohio, he's been pretty strict, but very appreciative of Governor DeWine's leadership. So knowing that camp's taken away, we had a missions trip planned to New York City, to the Dream Center. We've put that on hold. We've canceled that. These kids have lost a lot. So I was reminded 2 summers ago, and it's a lot of it's Leslie's things Leslie has said at summer camp. Sometimes we identify kids who really have a heart for Jesus, and we assume because they have a heart for Jesus that they have to go into full-time ministry. And what ends up happening is we're setting kids up for failure, and we're setting kids up to be disappointed. So I had done an internship program about 8 years ago when I was doing youth. I've been on staff here for, 19 years. It's been a long time. But I always had it in my heart, because I had worked at Leadership Lorain County, which is a nonprofit, to combine the spirit. They had an internship program, but to combine the spiritual aspect of the church internship that I used to run with them, with what they did. And so what I did 2 summers ago was I did an 8-week internship, and I'm going to do an internship again this summer, but I don't know what it's going to look like, because some places, when you hear what we did, we may not be able to get into these places because of the pandemic. But what I did is every Wednesday for 8 hours, they would come, and in the morning we would have a devotion, we'd have worship, and we'd have some kind of teaching. And each day was an emphasis. So I've got my internship schedule here. We had an arts and entertainment day. And so we went, and I showed them a video from Eugene Peterson, and we talked through some of that. And then we went to the Cleveland Art Museum, and how God has, we're created in to be creative and in the arts and all that. And then one day we did healthcare industry. So we have the CEO of one of the hospitals comes to our church, and so I didn't know they had a program where they do take kids on tours. And so we toured the facility and all the jobs that you could have, and this guy is so well respected in our church, and so these kids are seeing him, wow, he is using his giftings in the healthcare industry. We did science and technology, and we went to Highland, which is kind of like a Google where they have like slides and all that, and that was a really cool experience. And Parks and Rec, and we went to a rec, and then we did the environment. We went to the landfill. I just think kids need a holistic view of what it means to follow Jesus, and that they can, we want kids in the science, we want kids in teaching and all of those things. And so I wanted to open up, and we did do everything was ministry. We always had worship. We always had the word. The favorite one, and I'm going to have Kennedy share here in a minute what she really appreciated about it before I introduce you to her. We had the mayor, the police chief, a councilman who was also a business owner, and a Main Street Vermillion, the executive director, come in for a panel. And the people on the panel took it so serious, and the kids took it serious and asking great questions. But they began to see, like, I can serve Jesus in the community that I am, and in the things that I'm interested in. Because I think sometimes we pigeonhole callings. And but some of the things that we taught them in the morning was on the Holy Spirit, Leadership 101, and I had different people come in and speak. We did Strength Finders test. We did a spiritual gifts test. And then we ended it with going to Toledo to Cherry Street, which is a homeless shelter, which was an amazing, amazing experience. And then we went on a camping trip, which we ended it with a lot of fun. But Kennedy Shreve, she's actually my niece too, but she is finishing up her junior year at Heidelberg University. She's a marketing major. She is on the soccer team. She's very active in Crew, which is Campus Crusade for Christ. She's also team captain for the girls soccer team. And so I just asked her to share a little bit about what she enjoyed, what God taught her through the internship kind of the program. So Kennedy, go ahead and share.
All right. Hi, everyone. So Heidi originally told me this meeting was at 12, and then at 11:58, she told me, I'm at 10:58, she told me it's at 11, so here we are. But yeah, so we did the internship 2 summers ago, so it was actually after my freshman year of college, going into my junior. Was it that, or was it going into my freshman year?
I think you're going into your sophomore year.
Yeah, going into my sophomore year. So I already had like 1 year of college under my belt. But I guess like the main thing I took away from the internship, or the main thing like that really stuck with me, was when like you go to church on Sunday, like you just see those people like in like church mode, so to speak. Like you don't like see what they actually do. Like you go into the church walls and you see them worship, you see them following God, and you're like, oh, like yeah, like that makes sense, they're in a church. So I guess like the main thing I took from it was that we actually like went to other places where they were like walking with God in their field, like in what they were passionate about. And I guess prior, I didn't really realize that like I could be a marketing, communication, and economics major and be walking with God in my path. So I guess seeing them intertwine was like eye-opening. And I don't know if that sounds kind of crazy to realize, but I don't know, I guess when like you're young and like you are like going to church, you go to camps, you do all of that, like you only see people in church mode, I guess. So seeing people outside of the walls of the church and like see how like they're living their life for Jesus, for God outside of the walls was like the main thing. My favorite place I guess I went to was probably the healthcare industry one. Going to the healthcare, there's every major you can think of that works together to create a healthcare facility. So you do have marketing, you have advertising, you have like human resources, then you actually have doctors, nurses, then you have financial people, you have accountants. So you have a lot of different things going together and working the umbrella. And then the cool thing about that too was like in their mission statement, they always put people first. So like their mission statement was geared towards like the wellness of people, which like really like exemplified like our like walk, like what it should look like with God too. So I don't know, throughout the entire experience, like I feel like it's a really good idea as we're looking to do something for the summer, because I know a lot of me and the people that were in the internship like really like we enjoyed going to it. And ours was every single Wednesday, so it was once a week. So it was easy to work. Like obviously I need money for college, so it was easy for me to work and just take one day off a week and then work the rest of the 6. And it was sometimes tiring because it was like an all day thing. It was from I think like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. until 6 sometimes, depending if we have overnights. It was the weekend, so it was a time commitment, but I would definitely advise like if you're thinking about doing something this summer, doing that, because I know like how much it impacted me and everyone who was in it as well. So I learned a lot about myself and like all the other places. Was that good? Well,
yeah, amen. And the premise is we need to know who we are. We're going to know who Jesus is better as we know who we are, and it's vice versa. It's a holistic approach. to all of that. We have a lady who's on staff and she's working on her licensing, but she's second in command at Erie County Metro Parks. And I don't think anybody saw her in the executive role, but when you saw her, and I'm a green girl, like I really believe in taking care of the environment, and to see how Christians can actually fit in that mold. But this did cost money. And so this summer, we know we may not be able to do all of that, but I've talked, and it was open to sophomores on up. I've already talked to the youth group, so I'm going to open it up to the high schoolers. And it's going to have to look different because I don't know if we're going to be able to get into the hospitals because they're still on like I can't even go in as a pastor to pray with our people yet. They still have that ban. But taking the opportunity to do something with the kids, they've lost a lot, and it's going to require more work on our part. But they're going to remember this time. And I look at, Kennedy sent me a picture of our internship group. Some of them are not where they should be, but a lot of them are pretty solid and following Jesus in their careers, what they're choosing to do. So I hope that was what you were looking for, Leslie. That was a lot. So
No, that was really good. I really just wanted to give some ideas of what something like that could look like. So any questions anybody has about that?
One more thing is kids have not, especially if they're not going to be doing fall sports and really not working, kids have nothing but time. And I saw in an article yesterday, porn sites are giving free, free subscriptions. This is a time, as we're called in the ministry, we have to sacrifice our time for these kids. It's, we've talked so much about we have to have healthy parameters in our life, which I agree with, but this is wartime. And so whatever it takes, we have to help these kids navigate through this.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the reality of this. And I think once their schoolwork is done, I know in the next couple of weeks that'll be completing for our kids and youth. There's going to be even more unstructured time that if we can think through and do some creative type things. My question, did you charge them for this?
Yes.
What was the cost you did it for?
Oh, Kennedy, do you remember? Because we subsidized a lot of it as a church out of our leadership fund, but I want to say, was it $50?
I was going to say, I think it's 50 because we did do those personalized, personality tests.
Yeah, those are $20 a piece. I think it was 50, charge 50 to 75 a piece. So this was a commitment. May have even been 100.
I forget what it was, but I know the church put a lot of money into it too. So the price was lower, especially when we had more kids involved in it.
Yeah.
How many kids were in it?
There were 12 or 13 of you guys.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Heidi, why don't you put your contact information into the chat? Okay. And then if anybody wants to reach out to her, please go ahead and do that. I love that whole concept. I loved how you said that, Kennedy, of seeing people outside of their church role. Because we do. We make just internal judgments about people just based on this is how they look on Sunday or what they do on Sunday. And there's a whole nother side that people are living out their faith. So thank you, Kennedy. Go finish laying out and get ready for your final.
I know, I have a final in an hour.
Well, blessings to you as you finish up your year.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
It was nice talking to everyone.
Thanks. All
right.
So the next thing I want to move to is I've invited PJ Moon. And this is PJ down here. And, I invited PJ to come and speak at one of our winter camps last year. And he had this crazy excuse about his wife just having a baby or something. So he didn't come. But he is an awesome leader down in our Mid-South Texas area. And I asked him to come to share about this digital experience that many of our Foursquare directors are working on. I'm specifically working on the kids side of it, but PJ and a couple other leaders are working on the youth side. So PJ, if you will just take a little time and share what all that's going on and the big picture of what we're looking at for this summer for Foursquare Youth.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say hello. I am sitting in Texas, so hello from Texas. Casey, it's good to see you. I see a couple people that I recognize, a couple that many of you that I don't. My wife and I, we live here in Austin, Texas. Like Leslie said, we're the next gen directors for this area, but we also planted a church. So we are pastors of a church called The Local here in Austin. So anyway, yeah, let me kind of catch you up really quick on what's happening across the districts. I think like many of you here in Texas, in Louisiana, kind of our South area as well, we had to make the unfortunate but realistic decision that camps weren't able to meet like we're used to. And for my people, I don't know how it is in your district, but I know camps are a huge deal. And so it's kind of it feels a little bit like a loss in some ways. But obviously, I think what I sense even in your conversations and what I hear from Leslie, I think all of us are like, we're trying to make best with what we have. It's like, okay, well, we have all these restrictions. So how can we just really infiltrate and reach our youth and our kids, even amidst all the changes? And so we were sitting on a call together. Many of us had gotten off calls with directors and camps and made these decisions to cancel. And many of our district leaders were on a call together, just kind of talking about how we're all navigating this. And it was really funny because it seemed like every leader was like, I'm working, we had to cancel camps, but I'm working with, our district team. We're going to try to think of something to do that we can like really still reach the kids and reach the youth, even amidst all these changes. And so people had ideas like, we're going to do a virtual thing and we're going to do, and it just became like, what are we all doing? We're all doing the same thing. Why can't we come together? And what if we all did something together? We could like do something really cool, because when all the districts come together, just as far as resources, connections, ideas and brainstorming, like we could do something really cool together. So as we created this idea, is this the direction you wanted me to go? Did you want to share all this? Okay. I'm just sharing what I want. Leslie, I'm just taking over your call. So whatever. If I say anything offensive or that you're frustrated with, just email her, not me. Okay. But we really landed on this idea that I think there's something of a move of God happening. Obviously we all sense that, but even amidst our Foursquare at large, there was just a sense that all of us were like, man, our districts, we all have the same need. And if we just come together and do something, this could be a beautiful partnership across Foursquare, where we could provide, and we're using this language on purpose, but we can provide a digital summer experience for our kids that could be both, give them, obviously help them through processing, through really experiencing Jesus, but even finding creative and unique ways to connect, to find next steps, to really bridge the gap in the season where it's just so unknown. And so we have decided that together, and there's not every district is doing it, but most of our districts, I think the majority of them we're all working together to create what we're calling We Are Foursquare, the 2020 Digital Summer Experience. And so we're not calling it camp because obviously it's not camp. And if we call it camp, then kids are like, well, I thought I was going to get camp. But we're going to try to create some of those experiences that we have at camp. I'm going to talk mostly for the youth side because you guys are all youth pastors. But our goal and our thought process was that we would kind of give them an experience in a box. And I don't necessarily mean literally a box, but potentially we're still kind of informed of what that looks like. But that we would create this digital experience where it's twofold. One, we call a solo pass, and two, we call it a church pass. And so the solo pass would be for kids, because I don't know how your district is. My district's, it's like 50-50. Like Texas is reopening, and then Louisiana is like shut down until July. So it's like depending on the region and the kid and the church, some are meeting and some aren't. Some will gather, some won't. And so the solo pass creates an opportunity for all those kids, all the youth, that their church isn't meeting. Their parents don't feel comfortable with them going to youth group or going to an event just yet. And so that would be a solo pass, or just for like, if you'd rather do everybody have their own pass. So a solo pass would be like this digital experience. Essentially they would register and they would get like a digital key card. And this key card would include things like messages, content around the idea of We Are Foursquare, the four squares. We're going to really teach the pillars of Foursquare, but do it in a creative way where we can have speakers from around the world, kind of giving live. Again, we're still navigating the nuances of this, but potentially like a live experience where we would, some of us reps would meet, social distancing, meet somewhere like LPU campus or LPU VA, and we would do some kind of like live experience, and then we would bring in speakers to speak on these different subjects that would be potentially live. Like we would have a couple posted times for the different time zones, and people could get on and engage with this live and have content. We've also talked about having a worship, like some kind of worship band or somebody that could lead us into a time so people can worship in their homes. And then, so again, in this key card, you would have access to all these things. And then it would also begin to include things like Zoom breakouts. So they'd be able to join into a Zoom room that maybe would give them, we're really trying to think of next steps and not just content. So as we're helping youth discover their calling, what kind of calls could they be on together? Could they jump on a call with Life Pacific University, and explore their 2 campuses, and like, maybe this is something for me? Or could they jump on a call with Ted Vale, who's oversees our missions in Foursquare, and like just talk about like, hey, I think this is something that's stirring in me, and be able to kind of flesh that out? Could they talk with someone like Brian Barcelona from Los Angeles, who's doing campus ministry, and like, I want to go on my campus? So create these avenues where we would not just give them content, but allow them to interact with things. The digital thing would also include like strategic games and activities and interactive things that they could do via social media, where they could go and like, hey, do a scavenger hunt throughout the city or in your home, whatever. We'll try to make it so that it fits our social distancing realities. But that would kind of be a solo pass in a box. This would also include, just for some of you that are thinking about this, we've talked about ideas like, what does pre-camp look like and post-camp? So it's not just about the experience, but how do we set churches up and kids up to continue to grow? Whether that's journals that we send them that allow them to have a journey throughout the summer that would go right back into your local church. We've talked about even how do we engage maybe some of our district leaders into some of these conversations and some of these breakouts. And so we have a team that's just going to focus on follow-up, where they're going to find kids that are in these breakouts, getting their information and then getting them back to local churches and getting them back to helping us going, hey, these kids are all interested in these things. How can we continue to cultivate that gift or cultivate that next step for them? So those are kind of some of the ideas for solo pass. And then our thought process for the church pass was, and like I mentioned, many churches are resuming, which again, right or wrong, some churches decide like, now we want to gather again. And so youth groups might feel more comfortable maybe in a rural setting. Like we have a couple rural communities here in the Mid-South that have had 0 cases in 2 months, So their county is open. So their church might be like, yeah, there's not really any restrictions around us meeting. And so we wanted to provide almost like a church pass as well, where a church could register their kids to like, hey, I want to run this experience on my own. So that would give a church leader like all access. So we were thinking about making these like, even though they're live, there may be live recorded messages where a youth pastor can literally just download them all and play them how they want. Give them some instructions on how they could do games, how they could interact, maybe even Zoom breakouts that they could join, but they don't have to. So it gives the youth pastor kind of carte blanche to say, hey, like if I do the church pass, I'm going to make this experience what I want it to be for our kids, but still give you access to all the really rich content and some of the opportunities that we're trying to peel together. So like I said, if I was doing this by myself, there's no way I could afford or even be able to have all the connections to have different speakers from all over the nation. And so what it's doing, because we're all working together, it creates these experiences to be relatively affordable. So we're looking right now, trying to get it as low as possible. We don't have an official financial number, but I'm going to say this to you, but this isn't final, but the hope would be that we're trying to keep it around 25 or even below that number. We're working some budget things on our end to even see if we can get it like way low, just so that it's super accessible for kids and youth to be a part of this. A church could register 20 kids, and it only costs $400 or $500. So we're trying to figure out those numbers. We don't have any of those final yet, but that would be the idea, that we would create this really digital summer experience where, again, and it would help our kids. What I love about this is, I love that my youth will get exposure to Foursquare at large. that they'll get to see other leaders from across the nation, and not just people like me from Yeehaw, Texas. They get to see somebody, from New York or from Ohio or, from LA, whatever it may be, but they get to see some other leaders but we get to work together to do that. So that's coming down the pipeline. And like I mentioned, I just wanted to reiterate, we're being strategic that we're not calling it camp, because it won't replace camp. It's not going to replace what we do at camp. There's not really a way digitally to replace life on life. There's not really any way. Obviously, we're making them engage digitally, so that's really hard, because at camp a lot of times you're trying to take away the digital. So we didn't want it to be strategic to not say that it was camp, but that is kind of the direction we're going, to create something for us this summer. So it's not just like we've canceled camp and we'll see you in 2021, but that we say, hey, we have something for you. We care about you. We believe in you, and we want to do everything in our power as leaders and as church leaders, as district leaders, as national leaders, to really help you find who you are. And so I think my only encouragement to you would be to be a part of it. I don't want to sell you on it. So you have a unique gift, and God has placed you in your church for a reason. And there's no guilt or shame if you decide that this isn't an experience for you. But I would just encourage you that I think I was just hearing you guys talk about it. I was on a call yesterday with Angie Ritchie, and we were with my next gen leaders, kind of like this, and we were having a conversation, and she said, it's just sometimes we just gotta, like, we shoot for this long shot and we're overwhelmed with the long shot, and sometimes you just got to shoot the shot right in front of us. Like, there's a 2-foot shot that we miss, and I feel like this is kind of that 2-foot shot. Like, it may not be the be all end all be all for all of us, but it's a shot that we can take together. That maybe it impacts students, and maybe we look back and go, that was crazy, and we're never going to do it again. But maybe, just maybe, there's something of the Spirit of God threaded through this that could be really powerful in our youth ministries across the nation. And so I don't know of another time in history in Foursquare where we've done something like this nationally, where we have like multiple districts involved. And so it's just really exciting to me to be on calls and to be part of kind of creating this experience. So too, there's a youth option, and then we are creating a whole nother kids option. So there'll be 2 experiences, totally separate. Obviously, kids is going to be a little more, you'll have like, we're thinking about shipping them an actual box and having crafts and swag and things like that. So that's the experience. I don't know if you want to open up questions or if you just want to take it from there, but that's a little bit of the digital summer experience for you.
Yeah. I hope what you guys heard in that too was there's lots of options for what that can look like, from a live weekend kind of experience that we're looking at, where everybody can kind of be together at the same time digitally in that, or in small groups at a church, as well as the solo option too. So I think the content's going to be amazing. And we're even looking at having merchandise available that they can order online. And so all those different elements of it, to, that whole We Are Foursquare, they put that out there probably 5 years ago. And I know our youth really grabbed a hold of that. Like, that was meaningful to them, that they were part of something bigger. So PJ, do we have any idea when we'll have specific, are we looking mid-June maybe for the specifics, but at least getting the information out so people have an idea of what it is now?
Yeah, I would say that's probably my best guess. So as you guys know, we've had to shift gears really quickly on this. So we went from like all of us feeling like maybe we can hold off for camp. None of us know when our country was going to open up, if that was even none of us have no idea. We still don't know. So I think we just got started, like actually 2 weeks ago is when we had the conversation, and then it was like, we've got to start running. Like, we've got to have something. So our goal, we have a meeting today. We're meeting pretty much every week until June to try to get this thing planned. And we just want to make sure it works well and it flows well. And the registration, we want to make sure all that feels nice to you. So yeah, I would say that's probably a good goal. I think we've talked about like, hey, by the end of May, we really got to have this like in stone, ready to go. So that we can put out to the field. So I hope that potentially, by beginning of June, by the latest middle of June. I would hate if it was that late, but I think by the end of May, beginning of June, we should have information for you guys to start registering and get things going. And that way you can be a part of it. Our thinking is that this would be like I said, you'll have flexibility if you're taking part of the church pass. You won't have to do it on these days, but we're thinking about hosting the experience, making it a 3-day experience. So like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It wouldn't be all day like camp. So we're talking about maybe doing like a 4-hour chunk in the evenings or a 3-hour chunk or something like that, so that there's some engagement. We haven't figured all that out yet, but it wouldn't be like an all-day thing, Thursday, all day Friday. But we're trying to make it, it's digital. It's a lot of digital content if you're sitting on a screen for 10 hours. So I think it would be more of like a 3-hour maybe experience where they could leave for an hour and come back to the next thing. But we haven't figured out all those details yet. But yeah, I think June, beginning of June should be a good goal. We're really shooting for it. It's getting, as you guys know, it's like planning a camp, like planning a conference with 1 month notice. It's like crazy. Sometimes can feel impossible. So we're working hard.
Yeah. And that live experience, probably the end of July. So just so
sorry
about that.
The live. We're talking about doing the weekend separate so that you'd have a kids and then a youth weekend. I know many next gen leaders do both. So we talked about having those two like towards the end of July, back-to-back weekends. So that way it's the kids and youth can share those.
Yeah. So I'll be getting all that information and getting it out to you guys. And then next week, Kids Call will have more information on the kids side of it as well. Same overall vision, but like PJ said, it'll be kind of fleshed out a little differently because we want to focus more on families and those kind of things. So, all right. Well, thank you, PJ. Appreciate you jumping on with us today and giving us the overview on that. So looking forward to seeing that happen. So
got it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. All right. And then I'm going to jump right into, I'm going to open this up for Nate, and I see Manny and Tyler are on here too from Gettysburg, and I'll let them kind of give the story about how they were looking at something in March that got delayed, and now it's something that we feel like we can offer to our entire district for a youth retreat in the fall. So Nate, why don't you guys go ahead and take it away?
All right, thanks, Leslie. We had a big event at our church and weren't able to go to winter camp here in the metro region, and so we're going to kind of do our own winter retreat in place of not being able to be part of camp. And obviously with COVID-19 and everything, we had to delay that, but we still have our deposit for that facility, and it's called Buongiorno. It's in just outside Carlisle, PA. It's a really nice facility, and it would be $110. I mean, obviously, we're hoping that by October we'll be able to do this, and it really depends from state to state and region to region. But I think it's actually a reasonable hope that we can have this. We're calling it Resonate Weekend, and so we basically talked to Peter and Leslie and like, hey, we could open this up, and they were really supportive and thought it was a great idea. So we have information. I mean, that's the basic stuff, but we already have. Manny's created a bunch of them social media promo stuff, and so we're moving ahead with that, and would love to have as many as want to be involved. I mean, it's going to be kind of like a winter camp, but it at the same point, it's something that kind of what we heard from the last two that were just talking is that I feel like, the pursuit of normal may not be even the right pursuit anymore. Like, doing things the way we were, it might be that, sometimes God does things like this. You look at the Bible, Old Testament examples, but to do and start something new. And so sometimes it spurs us on to thinking about things differently, and not just doing things the way we have. And so we're looking at that and what that will look like. So we're just really excited about it. And I think we're working with Frederick, Sam Nunez, who's not on, but he's going to kind of be co-leading it with us. But we're moving ahead, and it's looking really good right now. So
Manny, why don't you share, I know a call that we had, you talked about that whole resonate, where that theme came from. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think me and Tyler were kind of like sitting in the office one day when we were thinking about the retreat, and we were kind of like thinking about like what do we name it, and kind of our hearts for our students is to kind of our youth group name is Illuminate, which we thought about a lot, but we really want our students to let the gospel resonate in every part of their life, meaning like through the way that they worship. That's a big part of Nate's heart. Just worship as a lifestyle. Not only in song, but teaching them how does the gospel and how does Jesus and what he's done in our life resonate in every single aspect of our life. And what we've been talking about, which I don't know if we can do it, is big part of Nate's heart also is mission, and really combining mission and camp together. So I think this weekend will kind of spark that in our students. And all the students who come is we want to allow the students to let the gospel resonate in their life and influence them and inspire them to reach out into their community, and to make a difference. I think COVID and coronavirus, whatever they're calling it, has really showed me what the opportunity through social media and students, how far their reach can be. And what I've also noticed is students are way more comfortable on social media and on a Zoom call than anything. I mean, me and Tyler both experienced kids that don't really talk ever in youth group, and they're just blabbing off on Zoom, and I love it. But really inspiring those students and letting the gospel be something that drives their life, letting like Jesus really in the spirit, like just drive their life to make a difference through every single part of their life. And resonate is kind of why we picked that, because it's being filled with something that's reverberating out from you. And that's exactly what we want. We want students to be filled with the Spirit, and for that and that gospel to resonate and flow out of their life in every part of their life, not only just in church, like Kennedy was sharing just a little bit ago, but in every aspect of their life. So that's kind of what we've been feeling, and we're really excited for what that's going to bring in the students' hearts.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is, other than Summit, this is really the first thing that we've done where we've kind of said, hey, all areas and regions are invited to this. The district is going to subsidize it to the point where we're basically having students and leaders pay what we need to pay the campground there. And as Nate said, it is a good place, and so it's a little cheaper than normally. So I know it would be a drive for those that aren't in that metro region, but that extra money might be used for vans or kind of an adventure. So wanted to definitely let you guys know about that, and that we're going to start social media promotion of that soon. Just so people can get it on their calendars. And then also we're working on getting the registration link up on that. Okay, but wanted these guys to be able to share so you knew their heart on it, as well as this is really a supported from the district type of thing. So, all right. Any questions about any of those things that we've talked about today? There's a number of things thrown at you, but they're all really good. Like I'm really happy with how we're evolving into some different things. And so I think just my last encouragement to you is what I said at the beginning. I think now's the time with our neighboring area churches. I look at the churches that are represented, and many of you are resource churches and resource leaders. And we have a lot of churches in our district that don't have the people. I'm not even talking finances. I'm just talking they don't have the people resources of being able to vision and have creativity for what they could do with their youth, or they might only have a couple. So by us really focusing on let's be neighborly, bring these churches together, giving calls, say, hey, we're doing this. Would you guys want to come join us? That's what I would strongly recommend moving into this season. And if you hear of any church doing anything or you're doing anything, if you want to let me know and I can get that information out, just think now's the time for us to swing those doors open, to partner a lot more. And some of it honestly may not really be partnering. It might be you inviting, because they don't have the capability to add to what you might be doing. So, all right. And then Casey, is the open house, has that been already, or is that today?
Yeah, so we had our open house on the 29th.
Okay.
UVA. But we'll be planning some more things, putting out some more resources. We've put out one of our student-led worship songs. So I think we're working on just creating some more resources and material just for youth groups to have, for other people's ministries to just to use, and putting out devotions with our staff and faculty, and working on that with our intern team. So, just putting out resources, but we will be planning on having another virtual open house soon. So I'll be sure to get you guys that information when that happens.
Awesome. And then Casey, I don't know if you know Nate Swisher, but he's the guy you want to connect with. Casey is over the recruitment and student things at LPUVA. So
hi.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you all for being a part of this today and getting all the information. And I hope it just kind of gets your wheels spinning, okay, and thoughts going. And if you have any questions, reach out to me or to the others that are here. So, yeah. Casey, why don't you go ahead and end us in prayer for today?
Sounds good. Lord God, we come together and we thank you for these opportunities that we can share ideas and we can share plans and we can move forward in what seems just really unknown and really uncertain. But God, we thank you for the peace and the sustain that you give us as we traverse into these new territories. Thank you for these opportunities to connect with other districts throughout our nation, other churches throughout our regions and in our own district. I thank you that as we are continuing to connect with each other and grow with one another, that these are relationships that are just going to flourish in this time where we feel like we're separated, where we feel like we may be alone. God, I thank you that as we come together, that even after all of this coronavirus craziness ends, that these are relationships that are long lasting, and that they stand so firm in the community that we have as brothers and sisters in Christ. So God, bless all of our plans that we have for this summer, all of our plans in this time of quarantine. Continue to just spur relationship and just unprecedented closeness with you, Lord Jesus. So we thank you for this time together. Watch over everyone as they go throughout the rest of their weeks. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.